stages, it's really just hearing the other person. Hey, well, is something interesting about you? Really accepting their love bids. I don't remember who this is from, but somebody talked about love bids.
What is that?
Love bids are when you say, oh, hey, look at this painting I drew. And then that's a bid of, hey, pay attention to me. Show me affection. And then the other person has to accept it or they deny it. So accepting it looks like, oh, that's such a beautiful painting. When did you do this? Tell me a little bit more about this. So that's accepting a love bid. And so that's how we build rapport oftentimes. How you break rapport is denying that. So somebody has a love bid, you deny it. And the more you do that, the love bid jar depletes. Right. So in the beginning stages, you just accept and explore them and just say, oh, tell me a little bit more. So being curious and open, I think that's just generally a good thing to do.
Very, very good tip. Now, what about the whole dating apps, texting? How do you communicate through that? Because there is no verbal fluency that you can.
Yes.
But there are other skills.
Yes. Well, when it comes to dating apps, I like to think about it more from a marketing point of view in a lot of sense.
Interesting. So dating for you is like marketing.
Yeah, because you're promoting yourself.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So the pictures that you have, what is it conveying? What audience are you trying to reach? Right? Like who's your avatar? Meaning who are you trying? What kind of man, if it's a girl, what kind of man are you trying to reach?
Yeah, give me tips for the guys. Because like since you're a lady, like give me tips for the guys.
Yeah. So what kind of girl are you trying to reach? If you want to reach a traditional woman, you have to take pictures that there aren't you partying in Las Vegas, because a traditional woman would not want that. They would swipe left right away. So what would you post? Maybe you doing your work or you just maybe with your dog, right? Showing that, oh, like I can take care of something.
But there, what I would say is don't post that thinking about the woman. What I would recommend, guys, is who are you? Like, who are you? And then be that.
What do you mean by that?
If the guy is a guy that likes to party, post that.
Oh, yes.
That way you're getting like whoever says yes, they know like what you're doing.
Right.
Because I'm afraid that a lot of the advice is, hey, create this avatar to get this girl that you want to get. But if that is not you.
But then you have to really think about this that goes beyond dating app where, okay, what kind of person, what kind of partner do I really want? And if I want a partner like this, who do I have to become to be that or get that? And that's the same thing for jobs. You have to learn certain skills in order to get a job. You need to have certain experience. It's the same exact thing. It's a job because it's a job to be in a relationship. It's another job.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of think about that. And you have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing currently in my life, is that optimal for my ideal partner? And if it's not, maybe I should change something about my life. So having a sense of self-development first.
Great.
And then going into that.
I hear you.
Okay.
And what I would add, I'm learning. I think it's a but on this one. I hear you, but
yes,
I think you need to start with who do you want to be and perfect that.
Well, yes.
And then the person, to me, like the person is secondary. Like the person that is going to come into my life is almost like secondary because they need to align with who I want to be. Mm-hmm. But I see your point, and I think a lot of people will do that approach where they say, okay, I want this type of girl. So what guys does that girl want? So then I'm going to market myself or try to become
the person.
Become that person. For me, I'll say like, screw that. Like, who do you want to be? Because I think at the end of the day,
well, that's the same. You're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same things. Yeah. I guess I'm editing it in a different
order.
way. Yes.
Yes. Well, you have to be that person first and then market yourself that way.
Yes.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you're not already that person, first of all, do you even want to go and find a partner right now? Because that partner that aligns with you currently, you should advertise yourself as is. maybe that partner is not going to be a long-term partner. And if you're looking for short-term, that's fine. But just know that that's what you're going to attract. Well, and unless they grow with you, which is another thing, of course, then you might have to, it's just a consideration and a probability of, okay, how much is it probable that this person who also likes this and this right now, but they're okay with me being this totally different person. I don't know how different it is, right? So it's kind of dependent on that as well.
Yeah, I think now we're getting into like the whole dating territory, which is interesting, but maybe we're derailing a little bit. Yes. So let's bring it back to communication.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I love all of this. I've done a lot of episodes with, I think this is the first episode that I get into dating talk with a woman, but I've done a lot with some of my friends.
Yeah.
From the guy's perspective.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
So now jumping into communication with a different setting where you are in a long-term relationship or you are in the beginning stages of building that relationship. What are some bases and things that we can work on?
Yeah, I do think you should, well, I'll speak for myself and my relationships that's helped me is to lay out what everything means. So what does love mean? What does a title of boyfriend, girlfriend mean? Well, what goals you have, what values you have, things like that. But defining what words mean is so huge because somebody can say, I love you, and that can mean something totally different. Or somebody can say, oh, when you're my boyfriend, girlfriend, I expect this, this, and that. So basically communicating out what your actual expectations are. Because oftentimes we assume that the other person knows and we're like, oh, okay, here, this is what I want. And communicating everything. What I like to do is put it on a Google Doc and then just documenting, oh, when we do this, this happens. When I say this, this means this. And then as you go on in that relationship, you can add on to that living document and add on to, oh, but didn't you say, so you can refer back to it. Because everybody's different. So essentially constant communication of what things mean to that person and having them define it, even if it sounds silly, having them define things.
It's not silly at all. Actually, like some people might think that this is silly. If that's how you feel, you're the silly one. Like you're going to get in so much trouble if you don't define, like when I say X, this is what I mean. Because it's like humans are funny. Like we have a whole completely different dictionary and definitions of what things are or mean and what words are or mean. And especially like for me, because I'm from another culture, like it's a whole different game when it comes to some words. It's so challenging. So once you create that document, how that like goes like in actual reality, like do you pull out the document like in the middle of an argument? You're like
sometimes, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like, hey, look at page whatever.
How many pages do you have in this document, Tina?
It keeps building. It keeps building. It's great, and it's great for somebody. I think so. My partner, he's very analytical. And so it helps him, but it also helps me, who's a little bit more creatively oriented, where I can anchor on to, oh, I did say that. And it holds me accountable too, where if I did say that, and you can see if somebody edited the document, which I love. Okay, so if I did say that, then I have to be accountable and or change the rules of the game and express and communicate that if I want to do so. So it does multiple things, but yeah, referring back to it 100%. I think that's fantastic, especially if you're getting into a lot of arguments, because then it distills it right away. Oh, wait, you said this. And then you have to logically think, oh, well, okay. Obviously, this has to be somebody who's mature enough to handle something like that. But it's almost like a science where you can, oh, go back here, go back here. But I will say within an argument, I learned this in therapy once, so don't quote me on the exact mechanism of this, but it was helpful to know, he said, who are you speaking to? So oftentimes relationally, there's adult to adult, parent to child, and child to parent.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
I heard of this.
Okay.
So we did an interview with Andrew Bustamante. He's a CIA agent.
Okay.
And he was explaining that he does this with his wife.
Ooh.
And they will say it out loud. So they will say, okay, am I talking to child Tina, like little Tina? Or am I talking to like top level, like badass, like Tina?
Yes.
Like what? Which I found that very interesting. I think it's probably harder to do in real life. Like, it's like, if I'm in an argument and you all of a sudden you're like, hey, am I talking to little Axel? I'm going to be so mad. So,
well, that's when you have to agree upon what the keyword is, or yes, the safe word of having that conversation is. And so to me, communication like that in a long-term relationship and in an intimate relationship at that is having multiple agreements and talking through agreements. And then if you don't agree to the agreement later on, saying, hey, can we revisit that agreement? Really attacking it as if this is a business deal and it's a contract, because it's a social contract. And we have expectations in that social contract. But if we're able to communicate it and write it out, and you can visually see it, you can hear it, then you can always refer back to it and you go, oh wait, this is our contract, and it holds you accountable. I just love that whole idea.
Yes, that's very useful. So I've used a version of that, and it has helped in multiple times where it's like, hey, we can go back to this. And it's funny how sometimes feelings and facts are not the same.
Yes.
And you will feel a certain way, but then when you go to look at the facts, it's completely different. So something that I have done in my relationship is my partner, she has written down, okay, these are all of the things that are great about our relationship, and these are all of the bad things that we need to work on our relationship.
This is such a horrible phrasing, but the challenging things.
Like a pros and cons list.
Right.
Like,
okay.
And
Oof, that's so honest. I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember in the middle of like a huge argument, then she was like about to share that, and she was even afraid that we were going to look at that. And I was afraid, but I also said, yeah, let's look at it. And then when we looked at it, it was like, even though you feel terrible in that moment, when you look at the pros and cons, it's like, hey, the one thing that I'm upset about is like these two things. And yeah, it's happening, but like this person is either working on it, they don't mean it, it's a circumstance that is out of their hands.
Right.
And then look at this huge list of like amazing things that are happening. So being able in that moment almost to communicate to yourself and remind you, hey, these are the good things, these are the bad things.
Yeah.
Because you might feel overwhelmed by an emotion that clouds your judgment, and it makes you feel like everything. And you know, people talk about this all the time, never speak in absolutes of like, you everything do this, you never do this.
Right.
Because more often than not, that is not the facts or the reality. So that has been really helpful. And something else I learned about talking about facts is another little technique that I learned is sometimes you might feel that this person is like doing all of these things and If you can stop them for a moment and say, okay, but let's try to look at the facts. I know you're feeling that way right now, but let's look at the facts of like,
oh, I don't know about that though.
If you do it with a previous agreement
with the previous
person,
agreement, yes,
then it works.
Yes.
If you do it with a random person that doesn't have that
agreement beforehand,
you're gonna light up a fire if you go to that. But I think if you use the right tone and you can communicate to them with your vibe, like you said, that you are on their page, and then you're just trying to get to the truth of it, then that becomes a little bit more manageable, and like you have great results.